Ethan Walker had spent most of his life chasing a dream that never seemed to come true. Every night, he played his old acoustic guitar on the dimly lit streets of New York, hoping for just enough spare change to afford a meal. With callous fingers and a voice weary from rejection, he sang his heart out to strangers who barely noticed him. One cold autumn evening, Ethan sat on a worn-out stool in front of a small coffee shop. His fingers danced over the strings as he sang an old blues song, pouring out every ounce of emotion. Most people walked past it without a glance, their heads buried in their phones or conversations. But then, an elderly woman stopped. She was frail, wrapped in a thick coat, her silver hair tucked under a woolen hat. Her eyes carried the weight of years, yet they twinkled with curiosity. She leaned on her cane and listened, truly listened. When Ethan finished the song, she clapped softly and approached him. "That was beautiful, young man," she said, her voice warm yet tinged with sadness. "Music like that, it touches the soul." Ethan smiled, appreciative of the rare compliment. "Thank you, ma'am. Not many people stop to listen." She reached into her small purse and pulled out a $20 bill, placing it gently in his guitar case. "Keep playing," she whispered. "Never stop. The world needs music like yours." He watched as she slowly walked away, disappearing into the bustling city crowd. Little did he know, someone else had been watching too. The next morning, Ethan woke up in his tiny apartment, barely big enough for a bed and his beloved guitar. Rent was overdue, and he had no idea how he would pay it. He sighed, grabbing his guitar and heading out once again. As he set up in his usual spot, a black luxury car pulled up in front of him. A man in a sleek suit stepped out and approached him with a determined look. "Are you Ethan Walker?" Ethan hesitated, unsure. Yeah." The man smiled. "My employer would like to meet you." "Employer?" Ethan asked, confused. "Yes, the woman you played for last night. Her name is Eleanor Hart. She would like to see you at her home." Ethan's heart raced. He had no idea who she really was, but something about the way she had listened to him made him want to know more. He followed the man to the car, unsure of what awaited him. When the car pulled up to an enormous estate on the outskirts of the city, Ethan was speechless. The mansion was breathtaking, surrounded by perfectly manicured gardens. He followed the man inside, where Eleanor sat in a sunlit room, waiting for him. "Ethan," she greeted warmly. "I'm so glad you came." He smiled nervously. "Thank you for inviting me, Ms. Hart. I didn't know who you were." She chuckled. "Most people don't. But years ago, I was a singer. Music was my entire world, until life took it away from me." Ethan's eyes widened. "You were a singer?" "Yes," she nodded. "Decades ago, before my health declined. My voice faded with time, but my love for music never did. And when I heard you play, I felt something I hadn't in years." Ethan swallowed the lump in his throat. "That means a lot to me." She took a deep breath. "I want to help you, Ethan. I see something special in you, something the world needs to hear. Would you let me?" Ethan could hardly believe what he was hearing. "Help me? How?" She smiled and handed him a small envelope. "Open it." With shaky hands, he did. Inside was a check for $50,000. His breath caught in his throat. "Ms. Hart, I can't accept this." She reached out and placed a wrinkled hand over his. "You can, and you will. This isn't charity. This is belief. All I ask is that you follow your dream. Make music. Share it with the world." Tears welled in Ethan's eyes. For years, he had struggled, feeling like no one saw him, no one believed in him. And now, a woman he had met just last night was offering the chance of a lifetime. He fell to his knees, gripping her hands. "Thank you. I swear I won't let you down." Eleanor smiled, a tear escaping down her cheek. "Just promise me one thing, Ethan. When you make it big, don't forget the ones who stopped to listen." Months passed, and Ethan's life transformed in ways he had never imagined. With Eleanor's support, he recorded his first album. His music, raw and full of soul, caught the attention of industry giants. Soon, he was performing on grand stages, his name spreading like wildfire. But he never forgot. One evening, as he stood backstage before a sold-out show, he received a call. Eleanor was in the hospital. Without a second thought, he canceled the concert and rushed to her side. She lay in a hospital bed, her body weak but her spirit as strong as ever. When she saw him, she smiled. "I knew you'd come." Ethan took her hand, his voice shaking. "I wouldn't be here without you." She squeezed his fingers lightly. "You were always meant to shine, Ethan. I just gave you a little push." Tears streamed down his face. "I'll never stop playing, Eleanor. For you, for everyone who ever felt invisible." A tear slipped down her cheek as she whispered, "That's all I ever wanted." That night, Eleanor Hart passed away peacefully. At her funeral, Ethan stood before the crowd, his guitar in his hands. He played the same song she had first heard him sing, his voice trembling but strong. And as the last note faded into the air, he looked up, knowing that somewhere she was listening. Years later, Ethan Walker became a name known worldwide. But at every concert, before every show, he always left one seat empty. For Eleanor, because she was the first to truly listen.